So we've been working a heck of a lot with locating and ordering rational and irrational numbers, kind of comparing them, getting a real good sense of how they compare with one another and how we can locate those. Well, what we're going to do today is we're going to estimate the value of irrational expressions. So go ahead and write the word estimate. And that's the key word for the day. Estimating is more about a process. We're guessing what the correct answer is. We just kind of need to get close. We don't need to be perfect, but we're going to estimate the value of irrational expressions. And in the warm-up, we're going to start off with some that look fairly familiar. I'm hoping these numbers are absolutely memorized at this point. These are going to come up over and over and over and over again, so please make sure you've got these down. So square root of 1 is 1. Plus the square root of 4 is 2, so the answer on this one is 3. Very quick. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of 25 is 5. Got a little subtraction to do here, but we add these together, we get 10, subtract 5, we end up with 5 for an answer to that expression. And then again, all familiar square roots here, all perfect squares, so this is going to be 6, 11, 8, and then remember, this is the biggest one that you had to have memorized, but if you got some others memorized, that would be great. This is a perfect square of 12. So then we're going to put these together. Let's say we put all the positives together. So if I put the two of these together, I get 17 plus another 12 and then subtract the 8. Or what some people like to do is, and this is what I kind of do, I put the two of these together, I get 16. I put the two, or sorry, 17. I get the two of these together, I get positive 4. So if I put those together, I end up with 21, and then we're all set to go. Okay, so some perfect answers right there. Ugly, ugly problems, but the answers are pretty easy to get if we've got those memorized. If we don't, this could be just a complete mystery and very confusing. Now, sometimes problems are going to work out with really nice, really simple answers, like they did up above. I mean, these weren't too bad, especially if you've got those memorized. And then other times things are a bit more complicated, they're more difficult, and then sometimes we're only interested in getting a quick estimate. We just want to get close to what the correct answer is, because all we need is, do I have enough money at the grocery store? Have I got enough material to finish this project, or whatever it happens to be? Okay? So if we make a really slight adjustment on what we did up above, it's going to make things pretty easy, and we should be able to come up with a decent estimate. So you'll notice that this problem right here is the square root of 2 plus the square root of 5. Up here we had the square root of 1 plus the square root of 4. Both of those had perfectly nice answers, but here's what we can do to make this little adjustment here. Well, if this was the square root of 1 and the answer was 1, and this is the square root of 2, this has got to be a little bit bigger than 1. So let's say that's about 1 point, maybe 1.3. Now again, the thought process we could go through is that's a little bit bigger than the square root of 1 and smaller than the square root of 4, which would be 2. Okay, so it's got to be somewhere in between 1 and 2, a little bit closer to 1 than it is to 2. So let's say 1.3. We're just getting a ballpark here. And this is going to be somewhere in between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. So it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 3, probably closer to 2. So let's say that this is about 2.2. Okay, so we're just going to add those together, and we're going to end up with, let's see, that would be 3.5. Yep. If we needed to stack these off to the side and show how we added those together, that would be totally, whoops, no carrying there. That would be totally fine, just 3.5 right there, okay? And the idea here is to just get close to the correct answer and show that we know approximately what the right answer is and roughly where those irrational numbers are. Are those irrational numbers in the middle of two integers? Okay, two of those really nice numbers that we deal with, those positive and negative whole numbers including 0. Is it closer to 1 or closer to the other? That's really all we want to do. This is kind of the key question for the day. If you can identify what two integers it's between and then give a decent estimate, then you're in really good shape. So square root of 7, and again, you don't have to write this, but you might want to think it. Square root of 4 and square root of 9. Okay, this would be 2 and this would be 3. I think it's closer to 3, so I'm going to put down 2.8. This is just a little bit bigger than the square root of 16, so I'm going to say it's about let's say 4.1. Let's put the plus sign in between those. And then this one right here, this isn't an irrational number. This is exactly 5. So let's write down minus 5. So again, all we're doing is we're showing that we're estimating these. We're going to add the two of those together. So that's going to be, let's see, 6.9 is what we come up with there. And then we're going to subtract 5. So that's going to be 1.9. So I'm going to put a circle around that. That's our guess. Now, it might not be a bad idea to put that approximate sign right there. Then everybody knows that we're putting down an estimate. We don't think that's the exact answer. We're just getting kind of close, okay? So let's come down here and let's remind ourselves of something that we did a couple of days ago. There was a brain challenge question that gave us, what is negative 2 radical 49? And remember, this is implied multiplication. If there's nothing in between there, it's multiplication. So what we said is, well, that's just a negative 2, and let's evaluate the square root of 49. That's 7. So the answer on this one was negative 14. Well, we're going to use the same idea on some of these that have coefficients out in front. So you'll notice on this one we've got a coefficient of 4. It's going to get multiplied by 4. We've got a 2 and a 3 here, and then a 3 right there. So just keep that in mind. That's how we'll deal with those. And we're going to run through and we're going to estimate some of these. Again, we're going to give our estimate to the tenths place. And then again, if your answers are all perfectly right, you're doing something wrong. You're not thinking about this. You're probably throwing this in a calculator and avoiding the thinking skills that we're trying to build. Please don't do that. Okay, so again, this is a little bit bigger than the square root of 4. So I'm going to say that's about 2.1 plus, that's a little bit smaller than the square root of 25. So I'm going to say about 4.9 because the square root here would be 5. Square root here would be 2. That's why this is a little bit bigger and this is a little bit smaller. And then we just add those together. Again, 2.1 and 4.9. Make a 0, add the 1. So that's going to be 7.0, or we're just going to say 7. Again, I'm just going to write approximately 7. On this one right here, plain old number 12, and then we're going to subtract. Remember, this is a little bit smaller than 100. So let's say it's about, say, 9.9. So we would have 12 minus 9.9. We end up with about 2.1. And again, put an approximation symbol on there. Now, I don't mind if you stack these or if you throw that into the calculator. We'd have to borrow here. There's our 1. There's our 2.1. Okay, either way would be fine. So let's take a look at this right here. Should look kind of familiar. We've got a negative 2 for that, and then we just want to come up with an estimate for the square root of 48. It's a little bit less than the square root of 49, so it's got to be a little bit less than 7. So let's say about 6.9. Whoops, 6.9. 6.9. So if we double that, we end up with negative 13.8, and that would be our estimate. Okay, and I'm going to put our approximation sign there just to kind of make it clear on that one. Okay, now again, if you wanted to grab a calculator and just multiply those together, that would be totally okay with me. In fact, let's go ahead and just kind of check some approximations right here. Again, I don't mind if you confirm your answer, but again, if your answer is perfect on every single one of these, then you're probably doing something wrong. Okay, so let's take a look at square root of 5, and then we're going to add the square root of 24. Hit enter, and we got 7.1. Yeah, so pretty close. So we're within a tenth or so of the answer. The next one, let's slide this over. We've got 12 minus the square root of 97. Now we think the answer is about 2.1. Gosh, we're really close. We're within 5/100ths on that one, and that was just an estimate. And then let's check this one, negative 2, and then the square root of 48, 13.85. Yeah, really close. Again, we didn't have to take any time to throw anything into the calculator. We've just got our good estimates sitting right there. So let's take a look at a couple of these. This is going to be 3 times. Okay, let's stop and think about this. It's a little less than the square root of 9, so a little less than 3. So let's say 2.9. And this one's a little less than the square root of 36. So it's going to be just a tiny less than 6. So maybe say 5.9. And then let's put the two of those together. So we'll grab our calculator. And let's see, I'll clear this off. 3 times 2.9 plus 5.9. So our estimate is about 11.6. Circle that. Gosh, a little bit bigger than square root of 25, so this is going to be 2 times, let's call that 5.1, minus 3 times, that's a little bit bigger than the square root of 100, so maybe 100.1. And again, notice how I'm just going to the tenths on each one of these. So I'll go ahead and throw that in the calculator. Slide this over here. Whoops. I've got that calculator set up right now, so let's go ahead and do 2 times 5.1 and then minus 3 times 10.1, and we get negative 20.1. So approximately negative 20.1. Make that look a little bit better right there. So roughly negative 20.1. Let me double check. Yep, that's what I got on the calculator. And then this one, let's see, we'll have 4 times. Again, we're just coming up with an estimate for that. Closest perfect square is the square root of 25, which would be 5. So I'm just going to put 4.9 here. Again, just to the nearest tenth would be totally okay. I'm going to compare this one to the square root of 49, so a little bit bigger than that. So I'm going to put let's say 7.1, and then we're going to go ahead and do 4 times 4.9, and then we're going to add 7.1 and hit enter. So about 26.7, so approximately 26.7. Now, the last part of the notes here, if we were in class, we're going to choose a couple problems from the assignment, and then, kind of compare our estimates and see how close each one of us is. Right here, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just go back and check a couple of these really quickly. I'm going to pull up the calculator, clear this off, and I'm going to check this last example, F. So we're going to do 4, and then we're going to hit second square root, and we've got the 24 in there. Hop outside of that, and then we're going to put the plus. Make sure you get outside that radical, otherwise we'd be putting the plus radical 52 underneath there. So make sure your calculator looks like that, and then we're going to do second square root, put the 52 there. Always a good idea to hop out of there. It's just a good habit to get in. And we got 26.8. Gosh, the exact answer is 26.807, and we got 26.7, so we're really close there. Let's take a look at this mess right here. So I'm going to clear this off there. So we're going to do 2 and then second square root. We're going to do the 26. Again, make sure you use the arrow to hop out from underneath that radical sign. And then minus 3, and then we'll do second square root. 103. And then again, hop out from underneath there. I always like to double check and make sure that it looks exactly like it does on the paper. We're going to hit enter. Negative 20.24, and we got negative 20.1. Much quicker estimate. Okay, that should be enough that you've got the skills needed, and we've done enough examples for the assignment. So good luck on that, and please remember, it's not getting the perfect answer that is the point here. It's the process of going through and doing that estimate for each one of them, and knowing that you can get close without using a calculator. All right, good luck.